Thank you. Good morning. I'd first like to start out by introducing my team. I have Tim from Saskatchewan Cancer Agency, Brenda from Sunrise Health Region, and Lori from Materials Management in Prairie North Health Region, and Fred from Materials Management in Kelsey Trail. And we have Bob and Cheryl from RQHR Materials Management. So we have a stacked materials management team. So this is just our team photo. And I'll start out by reviewing our project goals. Going into 2.6, our goal was to develop both inventory and quality control systems that will support just-in-time culture. So creating a system in which supplies are pulled only when they are needed and in just the right amount that they're needed. We also went in predicting increased efficiencies and reduction in inventory. So this is just a snapshot of our room that we were working in. The area had not had 5S methodology applied to it, so that proved to be a little challenging. As you can see, there's lots of reaching, twisting, clutter. The medication carts blocked access to supply items. We went in with a rather magical thinking that we could do the entire room, and we actually ended up only doing one wall, the north wall there. So the east wall is still left to Comm Bond. This is a closer look at the bins before we implemented Comm Bond system. So as you can see, items were stocked on top of each other. They had no signal for when to reorder. There was no visual management to indicate when shortages were going to occur, and there was no first in, first out system in place to eliminate expired supplies.
Okay, this is the current state map that we did. We'd scoped this as starting from the time the stock clerk leaves her office to the time, through the time that she counts all the stock, returns to her office, prints the pick list. We calculated our lead time at about 25 minutes, 46 seconds. Our value add time, with a very liberal definition of value add, was 19 minutes and 18 seconds, about 75%. The first 2 minutes, 47 seconds was walking. There was so much walking. And we focused on just that second step there, which was where the supply clerk goes through the stock, counts it all. And that was the step in the process that we looked to improve. We also noticed that it took the stock clerk a lot of informal knowledge to be able to do this. She whipped through these rooms at such a speed that if there was someone on their first day, I'm sure that 9 minutes that it took her to go through that room would have been more like 25 or 30 minutes. I think that's it.
Hello, everybody. Okay, so we started our Comm Bond journey by first identifying just on one shelf on the north wall what we thought would fit better with a signal Comm Bond or a two-bin Comm Bond. So the post-it notes are identified whether they're signal or two-bin.
Okay, and because the area had not been 5S, then the next step we had to do was some organization and getting rid of some of the excess inventory. So there were a few items in the room that just needed to be taken out. They shouldn't have been there. They should have been in a housekeeping area. And there were some items where there were a couple bins for the same item. Then, to figure out the excess inventory, the team had kept their daily usage for 1 week, but we didn't think that was really a long enough time to accurately reflect the daily usage. So we had the materials management department run a report that gave us the 6-month usage, and we used that to calculate the reorder points and the lot sizes. And we estimated the excess inventory that we took out had a value of approximately $120. So as we said, we started with the post-it notes and deciding what would be signal and what would be two-bin. And at that point, we were thinking the majority of our items we would use a signal Comm Bond. And this is just a sample of the signal Commbonne. It was developed together with the team that was working on 3.6 at the Wascana so that there would be some standardization within the facility.
So it was about Wednesday where we decided that we would be using the signal Commbonne. And as we were doing that, we started to see some problems around them being too floppy. They were falling over. Some of them were too big because they were small items. So while it did work for some, we started to realize that we needed a different, we needed to go to the two-bin system. But we didn't pick the two-bin system. And I'll just leave that one up for a minute. Can you put that other one up? We didn't go to the two-bin system partly because we didn't have the proper bins given the shelf size, so we had a bit of problem there. So as I said, though, we did stay with the signal system for some, mainly the larger single items, such as this dish soap that we only had one on the shelf.
Okay, so then we switched the majority of our items to a two-bin system, and this is just a sample of what the bins looked like. We did actually go out and purchase some bins so that we had the right size. Because this room is so busy with the med carts in there too, we were concerned about things getting bumped off the shelf, so we wanted to make sure we had the right size bins. The two-bin system was better for a first in, first out, and the little label on the front is actually the Commbonne card, has all the information on it, and the bin itself became the Commbonne. We set up an area outside of the room. Actually, they still need to do this, get a shelf built, but where the empty bins will be put. Anything else on that? Okay.
So as we were going through the Gemba, we realized that all the items were not labeled properly and there were no quotas or min-maxes on the current labels. We realized the current software was not capable of printing bin labels, which is a serious defect in the current system. The Commbonne label you see was developed for all the items used in the two-bin system, but it was manually created, which is an inefficient process. If you wish to roll this out to all the carts within RQHR, some consideration should be given to software and scanners. So Kanban can be printed electronically. Kanban cards can be printed electronically. The software system would also eliminate any keying errors.
And just a little bit further to what Fred had to say, definitely one of the areas we identified in terms of component Commbonne moving ahead was the software and programming and labeling that would allow Commbonne to flow much more smoothly. There were also aspects of our physical plant, of course, that were identified. I think that's going to come up as we go on along with this. So software and then the physical state and how we accommodate that physically as well. Another consideration, of course, and it's been highlighted here again, is currently operating parallel systems. So again, expediting a process change to run globally is important. Running two parallel replenishment systems, I think introduces some complexities. So in order to gain efficiencies, moving ahead and completing the project would be very important.
Okay, that's a picture of our future state. As I mentioned, we focused on that one step where the stock clerk is counting stock. What we did is divide that up into a couple of steps where the stock clerk goes in, pulls the cards that need to be restocked from the post and the bins that need to be restocked, enters them into the handheld device. And what we noticed is that the handheld device, the way it's currently set up, you'll have to scroll through it to find the items. It's set up right now so that she can just walk through the room in sequential order. So that'll have to be redone, which will save a little bit more time. When she's entered the product, puts the cards or the bins into the ordered post, and stock is ordered from that point. So what we had hoped for was a lead time of 1946 in our future state, which would be a reduction of 20%. I think we got close to that. And in future projects, if you apply this to the other rooms on that route that stock clerk is responsible for, you could probably see a reduction in this lead time of about 40 or 50%. Okay, and this is our target sheet. So we tried to apply every measure that we could to this process. And the first one is space. We looked at shelf space. And we have 160 square feet as a baseline, and we were hoping for a 20% reduction. We got down to about 122 square feet, which is a 24% reduction, which is good. Inventory, so items on the shelf, we had initially 730 individual items, and we were hoping for a 50% reduction. We got down to about 589, which was a 20% reduction, not our target, but still pretty good. Walking distance was significant, I thought, 719 feet in that one process. We were hoping to reduce it to about 693, and that's what we think we did, which is a small reduction, but to really have an impact, you'd have to move her closer to the room. Lead time was 2546. We were hoping to get down to 1946. What we think we did was got down to 2046. We couldn't retest this, so it's an estimate, which was a reduction of about 23%. Defects, we were looking for expired stock. We only found one, which was pretty good. We got rid of that, so we think we've reduced it by 100%. 5S, we did a pre-assessment of 1.3. 5S wasn't our focus, so we didn't expect a big change. We thought maybe 2, but when we did the assessment at the end, we thought it was only 1.4, so still an improvement, but not much. And cycle time, the actual room or time that the stock clerk spends in the room, 9 minutes. We were hoping to cut that down to about 2, and we think we got to about 3, which is a 63% reduction, which is fairly significant.
So at the end of the week, we were able to pull it all together with some visual communication for the staff on the unit. This is just an example of one of our signs indicating that Comm Bond systems have now been implemented and that standard work is required to avoid supply shortages. We also created a Comm Bond training wall, which is just outside of the room that we Comm Bond. It's got all the information up there that anybody needs to know about the system. And this is also going to be the training point for our process owner. He can just go through the information there, take them into the room, show them the bins, and then come out and mark them off on the checklist as trained. All the Kanban rules will be posted there, the standard work will be posted there, and there'll be a place for staff to document their ideas and suggestions to improve the process. So it makes for quick, easy, on-the-spot training for multiple staff at a time. This is just an example of some of the standard work we created. We created several pieces just to show that it's quick and easy. It's only a 4-step process. Standard work needs to be easy for people to follow it. So that's what we did. Just some key points to summarize. We've already touched on some of them. One thing I noticed, units are excited for this, especially our unit. It was fantastic. The staff were great. The frontline staff really want to do this. They want to change. They're ready for it. And a word of advice, keep the scope small. Like I said, we went in rather energetic, and Kanban is tough to implement, so keep your scope small. And this is just an example of our action items that we completed throughout the week. We have some small items remaining that we have to hand off to Jesse, but the big chunk of it is, of course, training his staff. A big thank you to the staff on Unit 26. We really interrupted their processes. We were in their way, but they were very welcoming and warm. We had an amazing sponsor, Nairi, and a super amazing process owner, Jesse. And he's a fine example of for anyone out there who thinks that you're too busy to do Kaizen. Jesse was out there every day fighting fires that frontline managers do. And he was being pulled in a million different directions, but he found the time every day to do Kaizen with us. And he's a great lean leader, and he was fantastic. And he's hiding in the back there in the far corner. And thank you to Wascana Rehab Maintenance, Carpentry, and Bill Clow in Print Shop, because we didn't have Go teams set up. So we just went on their door. We arrived on their doorstep asking for help, and they helped us at a moment's notice, and that was invaluable. And a special thank you to Sensei Iwata and Hiko. Your knowledge is invaluable to us. We've never had anything like this, and we really value it. 2 things that I want to leave you with, wise words from Sensei Iwata. You lose Kanban, you in trouble. Don't lose Kanban. And think about it. And there was many times that we had questions for Sensei, and he would come to us, and all he would say is, think about it, and he would leave. So it really forced us, to change the way we think, which is what we need to do. So thank you. How are we for time? Bob just had one important point that he wanted to touch on that he forgot.
Very quickly here, and I think it's been illustrated already once already. The first thing I realized involved in a team like this again is that organizationally, what we did was a concentric organization where we looked at the bands of people and their specialties in their area. And in order to complete the project, we drew from people of different specialities, different disciplines in order to do the job. So as an organization, I'm not too sure where we're headed with this in terms of team forming. If this is an indication of how we're going to form teams to strategize and problem solve, it's going to be very interdisciplinary. So here, this just demonstrates from our CEO and each band, a team is formed from groups of individuals to complete a task. So anyway, that's it.
That's very nice. Thank you, team.